Okay, so let's keep on going. And now I pose the question to you. Hey, so far we've only just been using session and local storage to set strings. How can we set an object, right? Because let's say you have const person as an object. Let's do name Philip, just Phil actually. Then age is 33. What if we want to save this whole thing inside of session storage or local storage? Well, why don't we just try that? Session storage dot set item, and I'll just call this data, and then I pass in person. Do we get an error? Let's see. So it doesn't seem like we get an error. Let's go to applications. Now, you click on person. Let me make this bigger. Person data is object, and even data, it says object. Why is that? Well, remember what I said. HTML, session storages, anything that displays on your screen can only take in strings or images. Okay. So even if we try to console.log this, console.log session storage.get item, and let's get the data, we get object. Because the console can only display strings, it cannot display other types like arrays or like objects that's nested like this. Okay, so how can we solve this? Well, we can just do it by, instead of person, we do json.stringify. And you may or may not know, but json.stringify, what it does is that it takes an object and it converts all of that into strings. And the reason that it does this is that because when you're sending objects over servers in real life, they can only take strings as well. They cannot take objects. They cannot take anything else. Everything has to be converted to a string. That's the reason why json.stringify exists. And I'll talk about that just a little bit more. Okay, so json.stringify, what are we stringifying? We're stringifying the person. Okay, right away, you see that it works now. You see the name, Phil, and the age. Let's console.log that. Console.log session storage.get item. And what are we getting? We're getting the data. Cool, huh? Okay. Now, what do we want to convert it back, right? Well, let's put this in a variable. Let's do const str is equal to that. Okay. And then we can do const. Let's do str to object. And now we can use json.parse. And what are we parsing? We're parsing the string. And then I will console.log string to object. Okay, and now that's an object. I'll even prove it by using type of. That says object. Okay. Now, why does json.parse exist? Well, when your computer, my computer, everyone's computer receives a packet from a server, right? Remember, servers only send strings. So we need a way to convert those strings back into an object. Now, you might think to yourself like, hey, this is such a cool way to clone or copy nested objects, right? Because let's say right here, I will add street. Actually, let's do address. And address is also another object, right? Street. I will put fake street number. Let's just do number 1, 2, 3. Okay. So let's say we want to copy this, right? It's hard to copy a JavaScript object that's nested, but we can use json.stringify and json.parse. So we can first do const to string equals json.stringify person, and then const to object is going to be equal to json.parse to string. Okay. And now we can console.log. I would say this is the original, and that's person. And then we're also going to console.log, whoops, 2 ends, copied, and that's the to object one. Okay. And you see these are the same, but they are different objects. Okay. So if I do person.age is equal to 4,000. Let's see what happens. Okay, the original changed, but the copy stays the same because they are different copies. Now, one thing about using this method is that it won't work properly, or it works sometimes but not other times. If you have things like symbol, and don't worry, but that's a new JavaScript type. It's actually a primitive type. If you have things like undefined or null, right? Sometimes it gets messed up. And that's why there's libraries for that, instead of everyone just using JSON.stringify and parse. But if your object doesn't have any of that weird stuff, right? It can actually copy it very quickly and without any issues. So that's just something extra that I wanted to show you guys, okay? And it also helps us with local and session storages, because now we can convert things to object and then we can use stringify, right? Cool thing. Awesome.